Imagine a world before humanity, a landscape ruled by titans. But the most formidable hunter was not the largest. It was a creature of breathtaking speed, armed with a mind as sharp as its signature claw. For decades, we saw them as solitary monsters, but the fossil record whispers a different story, a tale of cooperation, of strategy, of a pack. These were the dromaeosaurs, the running lizards, better known to the world as raptors. They were not mindless brutes. They were social predators who coordinated their attacks with terrifying efficiency. They communicated, they planned, and they dominated their environment through superior intelligence and teamwork. This is the story of how a feathered family of hunters rose to the top of the food chain, rewriting our understanding of dinosaur intelligence and revealing the complex, hidden world of the pack hunters of the Cretaceous. The year is 1964. The arid badlands of southern Montana bake under a relentless sun. Here, in the Cloverleaf Formation, a paleontologist named John Ostrom is meticulously working a promising site. For weeks, the excavation has yielded the scattered remains of a large plant-eating dinosaur, Deinonychus. But then, his team uncovers something else, something small, sharp, and utterly out of place. It is a single, sickle-shaped claw, wickedly curved and lethally pointed. At first, its significance is not fully understood. It is catalogued along with other fragments, just another piece in a vast prehistoric puzzle. But the bone haunted Ostrom. It didn't belong to a slow, ponderous reptile. Such a weapon implied speed, agility, and a kind of dynamic athleticism that was, at the time, unthinkable for a dinosaur. He returned to the archives at Yale University, re-examining the jumble of bones collected from the Montana site. As he pieced the skeleton together, a revolutionary creature began to emerge. He named it Deinonychus, meaning terrible claw. The anatomy was a direct contradiction to a century of scientific dogma. The creature had long, grasping hands, a lightweight frame filled with hollow bones, just like a modern bird, and a long, rigid tail. Ostrom realized this tail was not a dragging appendage, but a sophisticated balancing rod, allowing the animal to make hairpin turns at high speed. This was not a cold-blooded lizard. This was an active, high-performance predator with a powerful metabolism to fuel its energetic lifestyle. This single discovery ignited a scientific revolution known as the Dinosaur Renaissance. Ostrom's Deinonychus shattered the old image of dinosaurs as dim-witted, swamp-bound failures of evolution. It recast them as complex, sophisticated, and successful animals. His work went even further. Ostrom noted the striking similarities between the skeleton of Deinonychus and that of Archaeopteryx, the earliest known bird. He boldly proposed a direct evolutionary link, arguing that birds were not just related to dinosaurs, they were dinosaurs. This radical idea sent shockwaves through the scientific community, forcing a complete re-evaluation of life in the Mesozoic era. Yet, as the new image of this intelligent, agile hunter came into focus, a profound mystery remained at the original dig site. The remains of at least 4 Deinonychus were found scattered around the skeleton of the Deinonychus, an animal that would have outweighed a single predator by more than 10 to 1. How could this be? How could one small, lightweight hunter, no matter how well armed, bring down a creature of that size? The bone had changed everything, but it had also posed a question that would lead to an even more startling conclusion. The skeleton of Deinonychus was more than just a collection of bones. It was a biological blueprint for a predator of unparalleled efficiency. Every element of its design, from its head to its tail, was honed for a life of relentless pursuit. To understand this animal is to study a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, an anatomy built for speed, intelligence, and lethal precision. Its frame was deceptively light. The bones were hollow and air-filled, a weight-saving feature seen today only in birds. This structure reduced its mass, allowing for explosive acceleration and incredible agility without sacrificing strength. This lightness was perfectly managed by its most distinctive feature after the claw, its tail. Unlike the flexible, muscular tails of other dinosaurs, the raptor's was stiffened by a network of overlapping bony rods. This created a rigid, dynamic counterbalance. When the creature ran, this tail would swing, allowing it to maintain perfect stability and execute turns with a speed and grace that would leave larger, more cumbersome animals far behind. It was the biological equivalent of a high-performance rudder, essential for chasing down nimble prey. At the front of this finely tuned machine was a brain built for strategy. The skull of Deinonychus reveals a brain case that was remarkably large for its body size, suggesting a level of intelligence far beyond that of a typical reptile. Its eyes were set forward on its skull, not on the sides. This provided stereoscopic or binocular vision, the ability to perceive depth and accurately judge distances. For a predator that leaps onto its target, this is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Large olfactory lobes also indicate a highly developed sense of smell, allowing it to track prey over long distances. Its limbs were equally specialized. The powerful legs were designed for speed and for a final, explosive leap. But it was the arms that set it apart from many other theropods. They were long and flexible, ending in three-fingered hands equipped with sharp claws. These were not vestigial limbs, but fully functional grasping appendages, perfect for seizing and holding onto a struggling target. Every piece of the puzzle, the light bones, the stabilizing tail, the intelligent brain, the grasping hands, and the powerful legs, points to an active, warm-blooded animal. This was no ambush hunter waiting patiently for a meal to wander by. This was a creature designed to run, to think, and to overcome its prey through a combination of physical prowess and cognitive ability. We see in its bones the portrait of a solitary, formidable hunter. But the fossils hint at something more, a social dimension that would make this perfect predator part of something even more powerful. No feature of the raptor is more iconic or more misunderstood than the spectacular sickle claw on its foot. Held aloft while walking, this enlarged talon on the second toe has long been imagined as a slashing weapon, a living blade used to disembowel prey with a single, powerful kick. This dramatic image, cemented in popular culture, defined our perception of how these animals hunted. For decades, it was the accepted theory. But science is a process of constant questioning, and a closer look at this unique weapon revealed a very different, and perhaps more sophisticated, purpose. In the early 2000s, paleontologist Philip Manning and his team decided to put the slashing theory to the test. They conducted a series of biomechanical experiments, creating a robotic raptor leg and an accurately scaled replica of the Deinonychus claw. Using this apparatus, they struck at animal carcasses to measure the claw's effectiveness. The results were completely unexpected. The claw was surprisingly poor at cutting. Its edge was not sharp like a knife, but rather rounded. It failed to create the long, deep slashes predicted by the popular theory. Instead, it tended to puncture, creating deep but localized wounds. The claw was not a blade, it was a spike. This discovery led to a groundbreaking new hypothesis known as the Raptor Prey Restraint Model, or RPR. This theory proposes a hunting strategy that is less about slashing and more about grappling. Instead of a swift kick, the raptor would leap onto the back or flank of its prey, using its full body weight to pin the animal down. Its long, grasping arms would secure a firm hold, while the sickle claws on its feet would pivot down with immense force. They would function like a mountaineer's ice axe or a bird of prey's talons, puncturing deep into the hide and locking the raptor firmly in place. Once anchored, the hunter would be nearly impossible to dislodge. This reinterpretation changes our view of the hunt entirely. It becomes a more intimate and calculated affair. The raptor establishes a position of dominance and control, using the claw not to end the fight quickly, but to win it decisively. From this secure position, it could use its sharp teeth to attack vulnerable areas. This model is strongly supported by observations of modern birds of prey, like eagles and hawks, which use their talons in precisely this way to restrain and control their targets. The sickle claw was a precision tool for stability and control, a grappling hook that ensured once the raptor latched on, the struggle was all but over. But grappling with a large, powerful herbivore is a dangerous game. For this strategy to work against larger prey, the raptor might have needed help. To truly understand the raptor, we must see it not in isolation, but within the context of its world. The Cretaceous period was an age of titans, an ecosystem where sheer size was often the ultimate advantage. Dromaeosaurs like Deinonychus were fast, intelligent, and formidably armed, but they were far from the top of the food chain. They were medium-sized predators, navigating a landscape dominated by giants, a reality that would have shaped every aspect of their existence, from how they hunted to how they survived. Their neighbors were walking fortresses. Herds of Deinonychus, each weighing over a ton, moved through the fern prairies. Armored nodosaurids, covered in bony plates and spikes, were impervious to all but the most determined attackers. And towering above them all were the colossal sauropods, true leviathans, whose scale is difficult to comprehend. For a predator, the size of a wolf, attacking any of these creatures alone would have been a monumental, if not impossible, task. The risk of injury from a single defensive stomp or tail swipe would have been immense. The challenges did not end with their prey. Raptors shared their territory with much larger, more powerful carnivores. In North America, Deinonychus lived in the shadow of Acrocanthosaurus, a massive carnosaur over 35 feet long, with a bite force that could crush bone. A lone raptor would have been both a competitor for resources and a potential meal for this apex predator. Any kill a single Deinonychus made would have been at constant risk of being stolen by these larger, stronger rivals. In this high-stakes environment, how did the raptors thrive? They couldn't compete with Acrocanthosaurus on strength, nor could they tackle a healthy adult sauropod with brute force. Their evolutionary path to success had to be different. It had to be built on the very traits their anatomy suggests: speed, agility, and intelligence. They likely occupied a niche focused on prey that was too fast for the giant carnivores, or too difficult to isolate from a herd. But even this strategy had its limits. The constant pressure from larger predators and the inherent danger of hunting well-defended herbivores would have created a powerful evolutionary incentive for a new strategy: cooperation. In a world of giants, there is safety in numbers, and more importantly, there is strength. The ecological pressures of the Cretaceous were a perfect crucible for forging a social hunter. The environment itself was selecting for animals that could work together. The question that began with John Ostrom's discovery in Montana, how a small predator took on prey 10 times its size, echoed through paleontology for decades. The collection of 4 Deinonychus with a single Deinonychosaurus was a tantalizing clue, a statistical anomaly that strongly suggested group behavior. But it wasn't definitive proof. A single fossil site could be explained away as a chance aggregation. To confirm the theory of pack hunting, science needed more. It needed another snapshot in time, another moment of prehistoric drama locked in stone. That moment was discovered in the arid landscape of Utah. In a quarry, paleontologists unearthed a chaotic jumble of bones that told an astonishing story. The remains belonged to at least one large herbivore and, remarkably, multiple individuals of a newly discovered species of giant raptor, Utah raptor. These were the largest dromaeosaurs known to science, formidable animals over 15 feet long. And here, in this one location, were the fossils of several of them, adults and juveniles alike, all mixed together. Paleontologist James Kirkland, who led the excavation, carefully interpreted the scene. The sediment surrounding the bones suggested a predator trap, an area of soft mud or quicksand. The arrangement of the fossils painted a vivid picture of a hunt gone terribly wrong. Kirkland proposed that a pack of Utah raptors, a family group composed of different ages, had launched a coordinated assault on the large plant-eater. During the ferocious struggle, the massive herbivore became mired in the unstable ground. In their frenzy to secure their prize, the attacking raptors also became trapped, one by one, creating a permanent tableau of their final, fatal encounter. This discovery was monumental. It was not just a collection of bones, it was a behavioral fossil. The presence of multiple predators of varying ages with a single, large prey item provided the most compelling evidence to date for cooperative hunting in raptors. It mirrored the circumstances of the original Deinonychus site, but on a grander scale and with clearer context. Of course, the find sparked debate. Some scientists argued it could still be a predator trap where solitary animals were drawn to a struggling victim over time. Others suggested a mob-feeding frenzy, like modern Komodo dragons, rather than a truly coordinated hunt. But the weight of the evidence from these unique sites points toward a more complex social structure. The fossils tell a story of cooperation, of a collective effort to achieve what a single individual could not. Preserved in stone is the strongest clue we have that these intelligent predators ruled their world not just with claw and tooth, but with the combined strength of the pack. For decades, the image of the dinosaur was one of solitary, lumbering giants. Raptors, while smaller and swifter, were often imagined as lone hunters, using their formidable claws to take down prey their own size. But in the arid badlands of Montana, in 1964, a discovery was made that would forever change our understanding of these animals. Paleontologist John Ostrom unearthed the remains of a new species he would name Deinonychus, or terrible claw. Yet, it was not the creature itself that was most astonishing, but the company it kept. Scattered among the bones of several Deinonychus were the remains of a much larger plant-eater, a Tenontosaurus. The scene was a prehistoric puzzle. A single Deinonychus, weighing perhaps 150 pounds, could not have brought down a herbivore that weighed over a ton. But 4 or 5 of them? The implication was staggering. This was not the aftermath of a single combat. It was the fossilized evidence of a group attack. Ostrom proposed a revolutionary idea. Deinonychus hunted in coordinated packs, much like modern wolves. This hypothesis sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It suggested a level of social complexity and strategic cooperation previously unheard of in dinosaurs. The Tenontosaurus fossil site became a compelling, though debated, diorama of the past. Scientists envisioned a carefully orchestrated assault. Some members of the pack might have herded the massive prey, while others moved in for flanking attacks, using their speed and agility to avoid the herbivore's powerful tail and bulk. Their sickle claws were not just for slashing, but for latching on, using their weight to destabilize and overwhelm their quarry. Further discoveries seem to support this narrative. Trackways found in China show multiple dromaeosaurs moving together in the same direction, a silent testament to their social nature. While the fighting dinosaurs fossil from Mongolia shows a velociraptor locked in a solitary struggle with a protoceratops, the accumulated evidence from other sites paints a broader picture of a predator that understood the power of numbers. They were not just individual hunters. They were a collective force, a thinking, organized unit. The question was no longer just what they hunted, but how they managed to coordinate such sophisticated tactics. The key, it turned out, was not in their claws or teeth, but but in what lay protected inside their skulls. The greatest weapon in the raptor's arsenal was not its iconic sickle claw or its jaw full of serrated teeth. It was something invisible, something that left only a subtle impression in stone: its mind. Paleontologists have long used a metric known as the encephalization quotient, or EQ, to estimate an animal's intelligence. It is a ratio comparing the brain size to the expected size for an animal of its body weight. While most large dinosaurs, like the sauropods, had predictably small brains for their colossal frames, the dromaeosaurs were a startling exception. Using advanced CT scanning technology to create digital models of their fossilized brain cases, scientists have been able to map the very shape and size of the raptor brain. The results are remarkable. Their EQ was significantly higher than that of their contemporaries and was much more comparable to that of modern birds, their direct descendants. Their cerebrum, the region associated with problem-solving, memory, and complex thought, was impressively large. This cognitive horsepower was the engine behind the pack hunt. It allowed them to assess a situation, formulate a plan, and communicate intent with their packmates. Equally developed was the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance and fine motor skills. This gave them the incredible agility and precision needed to leap, slash, and maintain their footing while clinging to struggling prey. Their optic lobes were also enormous, indicating that they possessed exceptionally keen eyesight, likely with excellent depth perception, crucial for judging distances during a high-speed chase. They were not simply reacting on instinct. They were processing their world in high definition, anticipating the moves of their prey, and coordinating their own actions in response. This combination of sharp senses and a powerful processing unit made them incredibly adaptable and efficient predators. They could outthink their prey, turning a simple hunt into a calculated tactical operation. They were not just brutes, they were strategists. Their intelligence allowed them to punch far above their weight class, making them some of the most formidable carnivores of the Mesozoic era. But this advanced intellect raises another critical question. If they could think as a group, how did they speak to one another? Coordinated hunting on the scale of a raptor pack is impossible without one vital element: communication. While we can never know the exact sounds that echoed through the Cretaceous forests, by looking at their modern relatives, birds and crocodiles, we can begin to imagine the complex language of the pack. Their syrinx, the vocal organ of birds, is not something that fossilizes, but the sheer complexity of their social behavior strongly implies a rich vocal repertoire. It's likely they used a range of sounds, from low hisses and growls, to warn rivals, to sharp chirps and calls, to signal the location of prey, or to rally the pack for a hunt. A specific call might have meant attack, another retreat, and another danger. This auditory communication would have been essential for coordinating movements over distances, especially in dense vegetation where visibility was limited. But sound was likely only one part of their language. Their bodies spoke volumes. As highly visual animals, body language would have played a crucial role in their social interactions. The position of the head, the angle of the tail, and the stance of the body could all convey a wealth of information about an individual's mood and intent. A dominant raptor might stand tall, with its head held high and its tail erect, a clear signal of its status. A subordinate, in contrast, might lower its head and body in a gesture of appeasement. During a hunt, subtle shifts in posture could signal a change in tactics without alerting their prey. A slight flick of the tail might indicate the direction of the attack, while a lowering of the head could be the signal to charge. And then there were their feathers. As we now know, these were not just for insulation. The feathered wings on their arms and the fans on their tails were likely dynamic signaling devices. They could be flashed to startle prey, communicate with pack members from afar, or used in intricate social displays to establish hierarchy and reinforce pack bonds. This multi-layered system of communication, vocal, postural, and visual, created a sophisticated social fabric. It allowed them to function not as a simple mob, but as a cohesive and disciplined unit, capable of complex cooperation. Their language was the invisible thread that bound the pack together, turning individual intelligence into collective genius. The popular image of the raptor as a scaly reptilian creature has been completely overturned by a flood of fossil evidence over the past 3 decades. The reality is far more spectacular and bird-like. We now know with certainty that dromaeosaurs were covered in feathers. This is not speculation, it is scientific fact, etched in stone. Fossils from China, preserved in exquisite detail in fine-grained lakebed sediment, show dinosaurs like Zhenyuanlong with a full complement of plumage. They possessed not just simple, downy filaments for insulation, but complex veined feathers on their arms and legs, forming wings, and a broad, fan-like arrangement on the tail. Further evidence comes from the bones themselves. The forearms of velociraptor skeletons have been found with distinct bumps, known as quill knobs. In modern birds, these knobs are the anchor points for large flight feathers. While raptors like Velociraptor and Deinonychus were too heavy to fly, these structures prove they had advanced, wing-like appendages. So, if not for flight, what was the purpose of this elaborate plumage? The primary functions were likely insulation and display. A coat of downy feathers would have helped these warm-blooded animals regulate their body temperature. The larger, more complex feathers, however, were almost certainly for communication and social signaling. By analyzing fossilized pigment cells called melanosomes, scientists have even been able to reconstruct the possible colors of some feathered dinosaurs. The results suggest patterns of iridescence, black, white, and reddish browns. Imagine a pack of Deinonychus, not as drab reptiles, but as vibrant creatures adorned with striking patterns. During courtship rituals, a male might have flashed his feathered arms and fanned his tail in an elaborate dance to attract a mate, similar to a modern bird of paradise. In confrontations with rivals or other predators, these same feathers could be raised to make the animal appear larger and more intimidating. The wings that could not lift them into the air instead became billboards for broadcasting their fitness, their status, and their intentions. This feathered reality transforms our view of these animals, revealing a world of unexpected beauty and complexity, where visual communication was key to their social lives, from the tension of the hunt to the rituals of courtship. Beyond the hunt and the social dynamics of the pack, there was another, more intimate side to the life of a raptor: the family. The evidence for their nesting and parenting behavior, though rare, offers a profound glimpse into their world. While a definitive dromaeosaur nest with eggs remains an elusive prize, the nests of their close relatives, the oviraptorosaurs and troodontids, provide a compelling model. These fossils show carefully constructed nests, often built on the ground in shallow scrapes or mounds of earth. The eggs are arranged in a distinct circular or spiral pattern, a level of organization that suggests attentive, deliberate parental care. It is highly probable that dromaeosaurs engaged in similar behaviors. The image of a parent raptor, perhaps a Utah raptor or Deinonychus, settling down carefully over its clutch, is a powerful one. Their feathered bodies and wing-like arms, so useful for display and balance, would have been perfectly suited for brooding, shielding the eggs from the elements and keeping them at a constant, warm temperature. This act of incubation is a hallmark of bird behavior, and seeing its origins here, deep in the Mesozoic, solidifies the link between these ancient predators and their modern avian descendants. Raising a brood of young raptors would have been a communal effort. It's plausible that, within the pack structure, multiple individuals shared the responsibility of guarding the nest. One parent might stand watch while the other hunted, or other pack members might bring back food for the brooding parent and, later, for the hatchlings. The young themselves would have been incredibly vulnerable. They would have relied completely on the protection and provision of the pack. This period of dependency was also a critical time for learning. The hatchlings would watch their elders, learning to hunt, to communicate, and to navigate the complex social rules of the pack. From their first moments, they were immersed in the culture of cooperation that made their species so successful. The nest was not just a place for birth, it was the first classroom for the next generation of intelligent hunters. It completes the picture of the raptor, showing them not just as formidable predators, but as caring parents and dedicated members of a complex family unit, ensuring their legacy would continue. For millions, the image is indelible. A pack of 6-foot-tall, scaly-skinned predators moving with chilling coordination through a stainless steel kitchen. They are portrayed as hyper-intelligent problem solvers, their reptilian eyes gleaming with cunning as they learn to operate door handles. This cinematic monster, seared into our collective consciousness, has defined the raptor for a generation. But this terrifying vision, while a masterpiece of suspense, is a work of fiction. The reality, pieced together from fossil evidence, is in many ways far more fascinating and certainly more complex. The first and most striking difference is their appearance. The sleek reptilian skin seen on screen is entirely inaccurate. Overwhelming evidence, from fossilized impressions to quill knobs on their arm bones, confirms that dromaeosaurs, the family of dinosaurs we call raptors, were covered in feathers. These were not merely for show. They likely had complex plumage, perhaps with vibrant colors for display, and certainly for insulation, pointing to a warm-blooded, active metabolism far removed from the sluggish reptiles of old. Then, there is the matter of size. The iconic movie Raptor is based on a significant exaggeration. The actual velociraptor, whose name was chosen for its dramatic flair, was a much smaller animal, about the size of a large turkey. While it was undoubtedly a capable predator, it was nowhere near the human-sized threat of its Hollywood counterpart. Even their posture and movement were different. The films show them with their palms facing downward, in a bunny hands pose. In reality, their wrist bones were structured in a way that kept their palms facing inward, as if they were perpetually clapping. This bird-like wrist structure was crucial for grappling with prey, and would eventually be a key adaptation for flight in their avian cousins. And what of their vaunted intelligence? While they had larger brains relative to their body size than many other dinosaurs, suggesting a higher level of intelligence, the ability to coordinate complex strategies or operate machinery is pure speculation. Their cunning was likely more akin to that of a modern hawk or eagle, instinctive, sharp, and focused on the hunt, but not sentient. The popular image is a powerful one, but it is a ghost. To find the true inspiration for this fearsome predator, we must look not to Mongolia, but to the badlands of North America, and to a creature whose very name promised something far more formidable. The creature that truly inspired the cinematic legend was not Velociraptor. It was a larger, more powerful animal discovered decades earlier, a predator whose discovery would shake the foundations of paleontology. Its name is Deinonychus, a Greek term meaning terrible claw, and it was a name well earned. In the summer of 1964, paleontologist John Ostrom of Yale University was exploring the Cloverleaf Formation in Montana when he unearthed the remains of this extraordinary animal. What he found was unlike any dinosaur known at the time. It was lightly built, clearly agile, with a long, stiffened tail that acted as a dynamic stabilizer for balance during high-speed pursuit. But its most astonishing feature was on its feet. While most theropod dinosaurs had 3 main toes for walking, Deinonychus had a specialized second toe. Instead of bearing weight, this toe was held retracted off the ground, armed with a huge, sickle-shaped claw nearly 5 inches long. Ostrom immediately recognized this as a formidable weapon. He theorized it was not for walking, but for slashing, a tool of immense power used to subdue prey. This single anatomical feature implied a lifestyle of incredible activity and athleticism. A slow, lumbering reptile would have no use for such a dynamic weapon. This predator had to be fast, agile, and intelligent to use it effectively. Ostrom's analysis of Deinonychus became the cornerstone of a scientific revolution. He argued that this creature must have had a high metabolism to sustain such an active existence, suggesting it was warm-blooded, much like modern birds and mammals. This directly challenged the century-old dogma of dinosaurs as slow, cold-blooded evolutionary failures. The evidence was further bolstered by a fossil site containing the remains of several Deinonychus individuals alongside a much larger herbivore, Tyrannosaurus. This dramatic scene, frozen in stone, was interpreted by Ostrom as evidence of cooperative hunting, a pack bringing down prey many times their own size. The idea of a pack of intelligent, highly active predators was born not in a movie studio, but from these bones in the Montana soil. Deinonychus was the spark that ignited the Dinosaur Renaissance, transforming our view of these animals forever. It was the real deal, a creature of speed and power. But even this terrible hunter was not the largest of its kind. The raptor family had an even greater giant waiting to be discovered. For all its revolutionary implications, Deinonychus was still a medium-sized predator. The raptor story, it turned out, had a much larger chapter. In 1991, paleontologist James Kirkland was excavating in the rugged landscapes of Utah when he uncovered a bone that defied belief, a massive sickle claw over 9 inches long. This was a weapon that dwarfed the terrible claw of Deinonychus. It belonged to an entirely new kind of dromaeosaur, a true giant of the family. It was aptly named Utah raptor. The discovery of Utah raptor was a revelation. This was no lithe, man-sized hunter. This was an apex predator on a scale previously unimagined for a raptor. Reaching lengths of nearly 20 feet and weighing up to 1,000 pounds, Utah raptor was built for power. It was the grizzly bear of the dromaeosaur world, a robust hunter that could physically dominate its environment in the early Cretaceous period. It lived alongside and likely hunted large iguanodontian dinosaurs, using its immense strength and colossal claws to tackle prey that would have been impossible for its smaller cousins. Its existence proved that the dromaeosaur body plan was not limited to small or medium-sized hunters. This family of predators had evolved to fill the niche of the top carnivore, challenging even the larger allosaurs of its time. The story of this giant became even more compelling with the discovery of a remarkable fossil block, a 9-ton slab of sandstone containing what appears to be a prehistoric drama. Entangled within the rock are the remains of at least 7 Utah raptor individuals, ranging from a small juvenile to a full-grown adult, along with a large iguanodon. This extraordinary find has been interpreted as a predator trap. The theory suggests the iguanodon became mired in quicksand or soft mud, and the Utah raptor pack, attempting to capitalize on the vulnerable prey, became trapped themselves. While debates continue, this fossil assemblage provides some of the most powerful evidence for social behavior in these giant raptors. It suggests a family unit, a mixed-age group hunting together. It paints a vivid picture of a coordinated, intelligent, and ultimately tragic attack. Utah raptor was not just another dinosaur. It was a paradigm shift, proving that raptors could be giants, rulers of their domain. But this American giant was only one part of a much larger global story. The discoveries in North America revealed the raptor as a formidable and intelligent predator, from the agile Deinonychus to the titanic Utah raptor. But these were not isolated wonders. They were members of a vast and incredibly successful global dynasty. As paleontologists explored new frontiers around the world, they began to find evidence of dromaeosaurs on nearly every continent, a testament to their remarkable adaptability and evolutionary success. The story begins, perhaps most famously, in the arid expanse of Mongolia's Gobi Desert. Here, the classic velociraptor was found, along with a host of other closely related species, painting a picture of a diverse ecosystem where different types of raptors occupied specific niches. From here, their trail spreads across the globe. In Europe, fossils of smaller species like Pyroraptor were unearthed in France, while others were found in Spain and Romania, indicating a strong raptor presence across the ancient European archipelago. The journey continues to the southern continents, which had separated from the north, leading to the evolution of unique and sometimes bizarre forms. In South America, paleontologists in Argentina discovered Austroraptor, a truly unusual dromaeosaur. It was large, nearly the size of Utah raptor, but possessed a long, slender snout filled with conical teeth, suggesting a diet that may have included fish. It had surprisingly short arms for a raptor, demonstrating how the family's body plan could be modified for different lifestyles. Even in the most extreme environments, the raptors thrived. Fossil teeth and bones found in Australia and on James Ross Island in Antarctica prove that these animals endured climates we would not typically associate with dinosaurs. They survived in polar regions that experienced months of continuous darkness, a feat that speaks volumes about their resilience and their likely warm-blooded physiology. This global distribution tells a story of continental drift and evolutionary radiation. The ancestors of these animals spread across the supercontinent of Pangaea before it broke apart. Then, isolated on their own continental landmasses, they evolved into a stunning array of shapes and sizes, each perfectly adapted to its local environment. From the deserts of Mongolia to the polar forests of Antarctica, the dromaeosaurs were a planetary success story. They were not a single type of animal, but a diverse family that had conquered the world. And this incredible success stemmed from a revolutionary biological design that would ultimately change science itself. For over a century, the popular and scientific image of the dinosaur was one of failure. They were seen as colossal, dim-witted, cold-blooded reptiles, evolutionary dead ends that were simply too slow and too stupid to survive. They were destined for extinction, relics of a bygone era. But the discovery of the dromaeosaurs, and Deinonychus in particular, shattered this perception completely. These creatures were the heralds of a new age in our understanding of the past, the Dinosaur Renaissance. John Ostrom's work in the late 1960s was the catalyst. His arguments for an active, agile, warm-blooded Deinonychus were revolutionary. He pointed to its bird-like skeleton, its posture, and its dynamic weaponry as evidence for a creature that lived a life of speed and energy, a lifestyle incompatible with a cold-blooded metabolism. His student, Robert Bakker, became the most vocal champion of this new vision, passionately arguing that dinosaurs were not the sluggish beasts of old paintings, but were as dynamic and diverse as modern mammals and birds. The raptors were the poster children for this revolution. Their anatomy provided a treasure trove of evidence. Their bones were hollow, just like those of modern birds, a feature that allows for a lighter skeleton and a more efficient respiratory system. The growing evidence of a full coat of feathers further supported the link, serving not for flight in most species, but for insulation and display, hallmarks of warm-blooded animals. Most profoundly, the study of dromaeosaurs solidified the evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds. The similarities in the wrists, the clavicles which fused to form a wishbone, the nesting behaviors inferred from fossils, and the feathers themselves created an undeniable connection. Scientists came to the startling but now universally accepted conclusion that birds are not merely related to dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs. They are a living branch of the theropod family tree. The raptors are their closest, most spectacular relatives. They force us to see the world differently. The pigeon on the street, and the eagle in the sky are living legacies of a prehistoric dynasty. The dromaeosaurs were not just intelligent predators. They were the key that unlocked the true nature of all dinosaurs, transforming them from obsolete monsters into one of the greatest success stories in the history of life. Their story did not end with an asteroid. It simply took to the sky. For decades, dinosaurs were imagined as sluggish, scaly reptiles, creatures of brute force and simple minds. But deep within the dromaeosaur family tree, a revolutionary secret was waiting to be discovered. The evidence, locked in stone, would not just reshape our image of the raptor, but would fundamentally rewrite the story of life on Earth. The connection was so profound, so undeniable, that it placed these intelligent hunters in a new context. They were not an evolutionary dead end, but the ancestors of a lineage that still thrives today. They were, in essence, birds that had not yet fully taken to the sky. The first clues were subtle, found in the very architecture of their skeletons. Paleontologists noted the uncanny similarities between the bones of a raptor, like Deinonychus, and those of the earliest known bird, Archaeopteryx. Both possessed lightweight, hollow bones, a feature essential for reducing weight. They shared a fused clavicle, the bone we call a wishbone, which acts as a spring-like strut in the avian flight stroke. Their wrist joints were incredibly flexible, allowing for a motion that, in their descendants, would control the tips of wings. These were not coincidences. They were shared traits inherited from a common ancestor, a clear and direct line of descent. Then came the bombshell discoveries from the Liaoning province in China. In the late 1990s, fossils began to emerge from fine-grained volcanic ash, preserving not just bone, but the delicate impressions of the soft tissues that covered them. There, for the world to see, were dromaeosaurs cloaked in feathers. Species like Sinosauropteryx were covered in simple, downy filaments, likely for insulation. Others, like the four-winged Microraptor, had complex, asymmetrical flight feathers on both their arms and legs. This confirmed what many scientists had long suspected. Feathers did not evolve for flight. They appeared first in ground-dwelling dinosaurs like the raptors, serving other vital purposes. For a large hunter like Utah raptor, these feathers would have been useless for flight. Instead, a vibrant coat of plumage could have been used for species recognition, for intimidating rivals, or for elaborate courtship displays, much like a modern peacock. Feathers would have also provided insulation, helping these active, warm-blooded animals maintain their body temperature. Furthermore, they may have used feathered arms to form a protective canopy over their nests, brooding their eggs with the same care as a modern bird. The raptor was a creature in transition, a perfect mosaic of reptilian and avian features. Its sharp claws and teeth spoke of its dinosaur past, but its feathered body and bird-like bones pointed directly to the future. The intelligent hunter was not just a reptile. It was the blueprint for the masters of the air, a dynasty waiting in the wings. For all their intelligence and cooperative prowess, the raptors did not rule their world uncontested. The late Cretaceous was a landscape of giants, a fiercely competitive arena where survival depended on more than just a sharp claw. In the dense forests and open plains, other formidable hunters watched from the shadows, each a master of its own deadly craft. The raptor's existence was a constant high-stakes game of strategy, risk, and confrontation, played against some of the most powerful predators the world has ever known. The most imposing of these rivals were the tyrannosaurids. While the colossal Tyrannosaurus rex appeared at the very end of the era, raptors like Dromaeosaurus shared their territory with its slightly smaller but equally formidable cousins, such as Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus. This was a classic contest of speed versus power. A single adult tyrannosaur was an unstoppable force, a walking engine of destruction with a bone-shattering bite. No raptor pack, no matter how coordinated, would dare challenge a healthy adult head-on. The risk was simply too great. However, the dynamics of this rivalry were complex. A pack of raptors might shadow a large tyrannosaur, waiting for an opportunity to scavenge from its prize. This was a dangerous dance, requiring precise timing and a keen understanding of the larger predator's behavior. They may have also targeted the young. A juvenile tyrannosaur, not yet possessed of its parent's overwhelming size and strength, could have been a viable, if challenging, target for a determined pack. These encounters would have been battles of wits and agility against youthful power, shaping the evolutionary pressures on both species. Beyond the tyrannosaurs, other competitors lurked. In the southern hemisphere, raptors would have contended with the abelisaurids, strange carnivores like Carnotaurus with its bull-like horns and powerful legs. Even within their own family, competition was rife. Different species of dromaeosaur likely specialized in different prey, but territorial disputes were inevitable. The world was a mosaic of overlapping hunting grounds, and every resource was contested. The constant pressure from these rivals sharpened the raptors' greatest assets. It forced them to refine their communication, to perfect their pack tactics, and to use their superior intelligence to not only hunt, but to survive in a world of giants. They carved out their niche not through brute strength, but through a sophisticated combination of strategy, speed, and lethal precision. They were survivors in a land of titans, thriving in the very shadows cast by their larger, more powerful rivals. The late Cretaceous was a world of breathtaking abundance, a greenhouse planet teeming with life under a warm, stable climate. For millions of years, this environment had nurtured the age of dinosaurs, allowing them to diversify into an astonishing array of forms. Raptors flourished in these lush landscapes, from the humid floodplains of North America to the forests of Asia. But beneath the surface of this vibrant ecosystem, the gears of a global change were grinding. The world the raptors knew, the world that had sustained them for millennia, was beginning to unravel. The signs were not sudden or dramatic, but slow and insidious. One of the primary agents of this change was immense volcanic activity. In a region that is now India, the Deccan Traps began a period of eruption on a planetary scale. For thousands of years, colossal fissures in the Earth's crust poured out lava and vented massive quantities of gases into the atmosphere. This choked the air with sulfur and carbon dioxide, leading to acid rain that poisoned soils and waterways, and triggering unpredictable swings in the global climate. The world's weather patterns became more erratic, disrupting the stable seasons upon which so many species depended. At the same time, the planet was undergoing a natural cooling and drying trend. The great inland seas that had divided continents, like the western interior seaway of North America, began to recede. This dramatic shift in geography altered entire ecosystems. Vast coastal plains that had been home to enormous herds of duck-billed and horned dinosaurs began to shrink. The lush vegetation that sustained these herbivores started to change, replaced by hardier, less nutritious plants. This created a cascade effect up the food chain. As the great herds of hadrosaurs and ceratopsians faced increasing stress and dwindling food sources, so too did the predators that relied on them. The raptors, with their high metabolism and active lifestyle, would have felt these changes keenly. A successful hunt became more critical than ever. The pressure to secure a meal for the pack would have intensified, likely leading to increased conflict over territory and resources. These intelligent and adaptable hunters were certainly capable of weathering environmental shifts. Their lineage had done so many times before. But the foundations of their world were becoming unstable. The intricate web of life, which had supported their reign for so long, was growing fragile. The planet was sending warning signs, subtle tremors of an impending catastrophe, completely unaware that the greatest challenge would not come from the ground beneath, but from the silent, empty expanse of space. For 150 million years, the dinosaurs had been the undisputed masters of the Earth. Their reign seemed eternal, their power absolute. But the universe operates on timelines far grander than any single dynasty, and on a scale of power that dwarfs any terrestrial struggle. 66 million years ago, a cosmic appointment was kept, an appointment that would change the face of the planet in a matter of hours and bring the age of reptiles to a sudden, calamitous close. It began without warning. An object from deep space, an asteroid 6 miles wide, entered the atmosphere traveling more than 30 times the speed of sound. For any creature that happened to look up, it would have been the last thing they ever saw. A new, impossibly bright star growing at an alarming rate. The impact in the shallow waters of the modern-day Gulf of Mexico was an event of almost unimaginable energy. The initial flash and thermal pulse incinerated a continent-sized area in an instant. It triggered earthquakes that shook the entire planet and generated colossal tsunamis that raced across the oceans, scouring coastlines thousands of miles away. But the immediate devastation was only the beginning. The true agent of extinction was the aftermath. Billions of tons of pulverized rock, soot, and debris were ejected high into the atmosphere, spreading rapidly to cloak the entire globe. This dense shroud of dust blocked the light of the sun, plunging the world into a prolonged, artificial twilight. On the ground, temperatures plummeted into a deep, unrelenting chill known as an impact winter. Without sunlight, the process of photosynthesis ceased. The planet's plant life, the foundation of almost every food chain, began to wither and perish. The collapse of the ecosystem was swift and total. The great herds of herbivores, deprived of their food, were the first to go. For the raptors, the world they had mastered became a foreign and hostile place. The familiar scents of prey were replaced by the smell of decay and dust. The vibrant sounds of the Cretaceous forest fell into a great silence. Their intelligence, their speed, their pack coordination, all of their evolutionary advantages were rendered meaningless. There was nothing to outsmart, nothing to chase. It was a crisis that could not be solved with a coordinated attack. The enemy was the cold, the gloom, and the pervasive starvation. The indiscriminate nature of the event meant that survival was not for the fittest, but for the luckiest. In the gathering chill, the dynasty of the intelligent hunter reached its final, somber chapter. The dust settled. The sun, pale and weak at first, eventually returned to a transformed world. The giants were gone. The thunderous footsteps of tyrannosaurs and the swift coordinated attacks of raptor packs were now just echoes in the fossil record. The Cretaceous chapter of Earth's history was closed forever. But the story of the intelligent hunter was not entirely over. It had not vanished, but had simply changed its form, surviving the apocalypse by taking to the air. The only dinosaurs to endure the great cataclysm were the birds. These small, feathered descendants of theropods, the direct cousins of Deinonychus and Velociraptor, possessed the right combination of traits to make it through the impact winter. Their small size meant they needed less food. Their ability to fly allowed them to travel vast distances in search of scarce resources. Their beaks were perfect tools for probing for insects, seeds, and other small morsels in the devastated landscape. While their larger relatives vanished, this branch of the dinosaur family tree survived and began to diversify, filling the empty niches of a reborn world. Today, the raptors' most profound traits live on in their avian descendants. We see their intelligence reflected in the startling problem-solving abilities of corvids like crows and ravens, birds that can craft tools, recognize human faces, and pass knowledge to one another. We see their social complexity in the intricate hierarchies and communication of parrots. The raptor's cooperative hunting strategy, once thought unique, has a modern echo. Harris's hawks, native to the American Southwest, are known as the wolves of the sky for their habit of hunting in coordinated family groups, using teamwork to flush out and corner prey in a manner their ancient ancestors would have recognized. Even their most iconic weapon, the sickle claw, has analogues. The powerful talons of an eagle, used to grasp and control its quarry, serve a similar function. The secretary bird of Africa uses devastatingly powerful kicks to dispatch reptiles on the ground, a behavioral link to a bipedal, terrestrial predator. From a fossilized claw unearthed in the badlands of Montana to the sharp, intelligent gaze of a modern hawk, the line is unbroken. The raptors force us to see birds not just as peaceful songbirds, but as the living inheritors of a fearsome and highly successful predatory dynasty. They are a testament to the enduring power of intelligence and cooperation, a story that did not truly end, but simply learned to fly.